Getting up properly is one of the most important defensive skills in Soul Calibur. It is the difference between surviving another day and being murdered on the ground, which, unlike other fighting games, is a real and present danger. To succeed in recovering safely, you must know all of your options at any given point. Careful use of these options will enable you to recover and continue fighting. The most commonly used form of getting up is the ukemi, literally, receiving body. It is a term from Aikido or Judo, and in this context, it refers to falling or recovering safely. In some circles, an ukemi is referred to as a tech roll, or simply tech or teching. To ukemi, when knocked down, tap G in a cardinal direction, 6, 4, 8, or 2. The timing is irrelevant, as it's possible to hold the desired direction and mash G to perform an ukemi. The knockdowns that an ukemi can be performed after are generally pushing motions or hard knockdowns. With experience, you should learn where your ukemi opportunities are. You should be aware that there are opportunities that you may not have known before, however. So check in training mode if you have a hunch about an ukemi opportunity. If you wish, you can set the computer to do an ukemi for you. Not all knockdowns can be followed by an ukemi. Empty launchers, air combos, and even some attacks deny any ukemi attempts. This state is sometimes referred to as untechable. It's important to know these situations well, as they are often the most dangerous situations in the game to be in. The ukemi can be used to avoid additional damage in some cases. It can be used to gain breathing room, or to just get up quickly and get back into the fight. In rare instances, ukemi can be used to pressure your opponent. Generally, an ukemi is an effective choice for dealing with knockdowns. However, it does have its weaknesses. During an ukemi, there is a small vulnerable period where you can be hit with attacks. If your opponent lines their strikes up correctly, they can hit you during your ukemi, regardless if you are holding guard or not. These sequences are referred to as tech traps, and they can be very dangerous depending on who you are playing against. Some tech traps will only discourage one or two directions and whiff against others. Some will catch any direction. In these cases, the only way to avoid a tech trap is to choose an action other than ukemi. Ukemi puts you in a standing state extremely quickly. If your opponent has enough advantage to move and anticipates your ukemi, they can quickly approach while you are busy recovering and force a mix-up during this time. Oftentimes, your only form of defense against this is to predict your opponent's actions based on their patterns. You should be aware that choosing not to use ukemi at times can possibly dissolve this mix-up entirely. One of the basic tactics that I recommend to most people, and one of my favorite personally, is to do nothing when knocked down. When you are in a down state, many attacks will either completely whiff or will not connect properly. Those that do will usually hit for less damage than if they had hit you standing. If the opponent whiffs above your body, they put themselves at disadvantage, giving you enough time to stand and guard safely. If the disadvantage is big enough, you may even be able to whiff punish them from the ground. If you are hit on the ground, this generally means that you'll be able to ukemi immediately afterwards and gain some space. Combined with lower damage on most attacks, this means you can stay grounded, take a hit for a small amount of damage, and then safely recover. Moves that do full damage to grounded opponents generally are unsafe or slow, so switch to punishment or avoidance in these cases. When knocked down, you can stand up in place by tapping or holding G. It is important to note that if you are attacked while holding G, you will immediately pop up to guard. This is instantaneous as long as you are considered in the down state. You can also low guard or get up crouching in the same way by pressing G2. It is important that you press G before 2 and not 2 before G, or you may end up inadvertently tech rolling, which can lead to trouble in some cases. Generally, standing to block and subsequently punish unsafe moves used for Okizeme is a good idea. You may also do it to prevent being hit on the ground, or to gain some advantage from blocking. But beware, putting yourself in a standing state means that you can be hit by attacks that hit standing opponents, such as throws, lows, guard breaks, launchers, etc. Essentially, choosing the wrong time to stand up can put you in a mix-up situation, which can be extremely difficult to escape. When dealing with attacks that hit grounded, it is possible to roll to avoid them. Rolling is simple. Hold the direction you want to roll in, again, being restricted to the cardinal directions. Your character will roll, and then automatically stand. Concerning side rolls, you can roll continuously 3 times before automatically getting up. You can also side roll once by tapping 2 or 8 instead of holding it. If you delay the amount of time before you roll again, you can stay on the ground indefinitely while rolling. This gives you the benefit of the down state while still being able to move. I often use this tactic to escape tight situations around a wall or ring edge. Rolling comes with vulnerabilities. If you are rolling, you are not guarding. Consequently, you can be hit by some attacks while rolling, including attacks that would normally not connect on downed opponents. Rolling is not instantaneous like standing to guard. If you are launched, you may not have enough time to roll. Rolling can become dangerous in untechable situations, especially so if your opponent anticipates your roll. If your opponent uses certain sequences of attacks, rolling may be impossible and lead to damage, so always be cautious. It is possible to go on the offensive from the ground. Inputting A, B, or K will normally result in a while rising attack. You can execute other commands that are related to the crouching state, such as directional inputs or simultaneous inputs, by tapping G before inputting your command. If your character's critical edge is fast enough, or has invincibility frames of some sort, it's possible to surprise your opponent with it. Pay attention to your positioning on the ground as well. You may be technically in a back-turned state, and this will affect your attacks. If you are facing forward, face down feet away, or face up feet towards, you can attack as normal. If you are facing backward, face down feet toward, or face up feet away, you are technically back-turned. This is an extremely disadvantaged state, at least when it comes to your attacks, as you will only have access to back-turned attacks, which are generally weak, single-hit attacks. It's possible to get up back-turn by pressing A plus B plus K or K plus G while in this state, but you'd only want to do this if you have a good back-turned attack. Even so, this should be used sparingly, as getting up back-turned and attacking takes time. Properly attacking from the ground requires good knowledge of advantage and disadvantage. You are more likely to connect an attack if your opponent whiffs, if the opponent hesitates or uses slow moves, or if the opponent advances on you without enough advantage. It's very important to note that attacks from the ground are always going to be slower than if you had done them standing, about 15 frames slower, more or less. That means that attacks attempted from the ground often take half a second to execute, which is extremely slow in this environment. Be sure to carefully control where you attack from the ground. If you do not heed this warning, you will most likely be counter-hit and mercilessly beaten on the ground. In some cases, it's possible to utilize just guard or guard impact, like an attack. Tap G to put yourself in a while rising state, and then input a just guard or guard impact. Since just guard and guard impact are permissible when crouching, they will execute much like the attacks previously mentioned. Using just guard or guard impact like this is not instantaneous and must be used with caution. But because these defensive methods activate quicker than any attack, you can use them in moderately disadvantaged situations. Surprising your opponent like this, by completely reversing your disadvantage, can cause considerable mental damage to your opponent, and possibly even result in offense opportunities for you as well. In most cases, you must come to rest on the ground before more advanced options are available. Simply standing in place is instantaneous and works in most if not all situations, but it carries the highest mix-up risk. Be aware of all of your options at any one given point in time. Do not be afraid to change your methods. If you get up in the same fashion every single time, odds are you will be heavily punished for it. Remember that this knowledge works both ways. Think of your opponent's defensive options and you can pick them apart on the ground, prolonging your advantage to the end of the match.
This is what I do. I sit on your head.